Welcome to This Albanian Life, the podcast that invites you to immerse yourself in the vibrant mosaic of Albanian culture, history, and untold stories. This Albanian Life is more than just a podcast. It's a labor of love created by English students from Fan Noli University in Korça, Albania. With each episode, we not only share perspectives and practice spoken English, but also strive to build digital literacy and storytelling skills. So will you join us as we peel back the layers of Albanian history, culture, and identity? Will you journey with us to uncover the uniqueness of Albania, one piece at a time? Tune in and let the adventure begin. Together, let's explore this Albanian life.
You may ask yourselves, how can horror, a genre filled with blood, murder, killers, ghosts, and all kinds of horrifying sights and sounds, be used for expressing concern over societal problems? Talking about an issue that plagues our society? Well, the thing is that horror offers a lot of tools and elements that can actually be used quite well for showing the horrific side of real problems that exist in our real world. Toxic beauty standards, living as an outsider in the community, living as a person with a mental disability, disorder, while you are in a country or in a community that simply doesn't really care about that issue. The problems that arise when you are all alone, or the things that may arise from one thing that inspired this idea was a short video I saw on YouTube one day. It was a short video about how it would be to live with schizophrenia. It showed the perspective of what a schizophrenic person may perceive reality. And that really influenced my thought process on how horror and film can be used to show different perspectives of people who are suffering the very negative problems in our society. It can show just how terrifying some things in society. Naturally, most nowadays simply delivering cheap scares, not focusing on delivering messages. But the very concept of horror, the very concept of scaring the audience, is one that can inspire in them also empathy for those who are suffering. It can inspire a different perspective on issues that may have not seemed like a terrifying problem before to the audience, but now they have seen how it would feel to be in a different position, how it would feel to be on the receiving end of something terrifying in society, and then can sympathize with the victims of the problems in our society. Not only that, but another issue that horror can tackle is the way that horror itself can sometimes inspire problems. One franchise of horror movies that I like is the Scream movies. They usually involve some meta-commentary on horror movies, especially slasher films from the 80s, and horror fans. The main killer, known as Ghostface, is simply a concept. The person who wears the mask is inspired by horror movies, acting like the same slasher killers that you would see in a horror movie, while also being part of a horror movie himself, and the mask gets passed on to different people. The second movie, for example, tackles fans of a movie made about the previous movie's killers. The second movie, for example, shows us a killer that is inspired by the killer in the previous film. As such, the role is passed on, and from this franchise of films, we can see that horror movies can also tackle the problem of people taking inspiration from seeing horrible acts committed in media. They can look at the issue of people trying to replicate the fictional characters in movies, trying to replicate those killers that are seen in horror films, and they can showcase this problem too. They can comment on this problem. And another thing that horror movies can be good at is showing the perspective of how toxic beauty standards can affect people, especially women. I can speak for any movies that really tackle this, but I can speak about other horror mediums which illustrate what can happen when someone becomes obsessed with beauty. The horror of removing a rib or a few of your ribs to have a thinner waist. The horror of changing yourself simply to fit into the expectations of society. The horror of practically butchering yourself just to be more presentable to the people who surround you and who are judging you. So we can see that there are a lot of terrifying problems in our society, and the sheer horror of this can be reflected in the very genre of horror, whether it be in films, but it can also be through art or through illustrations, through books, even through podcasts. That there can be podcasts that center around telling a fictional story. And they can tell horror stories too about problems in our society. There are many ways to use horror as a way of commenting on the negative aspects that exist in our world. And so I want to thank you all for coming here to listen to this podcast, to listen to me talk about horror and how horror can be a medium which we can show the different perspectives of people who are suffering through the negative things in our society, and through which we can comment on the issues of our world.